The mockery begins. The stars burned bright over the alien fleet as it moved like a wall of death through the darkness of space. Thousands of warships, armed with plasma cannons and shields stronger than mountains, hovered outside Earth's orbit. Inside the command ship, the alien leader, High Admiral Zorath, looked down at the blue planet with cold, amused eyes. 4 years, they had studied humans. They had seen their codes of war, their so-called ethics, their fragile laws that told them what not to do during a fight. And Zorath laughed. He laughed because those rules would destroy them. "Look at them," Zorath said in a voice that vibrated through the command deck. "So weak. They will not strike civilians. They will not burn cities. They will not use biological weapons. They chain themselves with rules because they fear their own nature. Pathetic." The bridge erupted with laughter. Around him, alien officers hissed with joy, their sharp teeth glinting under the lights. To them, this war was already won. For the first time, the humans had faced an empire so vast it spanned hundreds of systems. And yet, humans were talking about peace. They were begging for talks. It was almost insulting. One officer sneered as he replayed intercepted human transmissions on the holoscreen. The voice of a human leader came through, calm but desperate. "We propose an immediate ceasefire to protect civilian life. There is no need for further bloodshed." The officer laughed so hard his chest plates rattled. "Listen to them. They talk of mercy. They think we will show mercy to insects." Zorath waved a claw. "They still believe they are equals. That will change soon." He turned to his war council. "Send this message to the human leaders. We will grant them peace, when they kneel and swear loyalty to the KRYL Dominion. They have 1 cycle to respond. After that, burn everything." The officers bowed and scurried to obey. Outside the massive window, the alien fleet cast shadows across the Earth's atmosphere. Firepower capable of erasing continents now waited like a predator about to strike. Far below, on Earth, inside a secret underground bunker, the mood was different. General Marcus Hale stood in silence, his jaw tight, his eyes locked on the massive screen showing the alien armada. He had seen many wars in his life, but never anything like this. Earth's defenses were shattered in hours. The orbital platforms were gone. The first fleets had been annihilated. Now, humanity stood on the edge of extinction. Behind him, young officers argued about surrender, evacuation, hiding civilians. But Hale's mind was elsewhere. He wasn't thinking about surrender. He was thinking about the thing they swore never to touch again. The thing locked away for centuries because humanity had feared its own reflection. A voice broke his thoughts. "Sir," a young major said nervously, "the aliens demand unconditional surrender. If we refuse, they will strike within hours." Hale turned slowly, his face a mask of iron. "And if we accept, they will enslave us. Wipe out everything that makes us human. There is no peace with creatures like them." The major swallowed hard. "Then, what do we do?" For a long moment, Hale didn't answer. His hand hovered over a locked panel on the table, glowing with red warning lights. The words Project Ashes burned faintly across the surface. His fingers trembled slightly as he entered the code. Every officer in the room stared in shock. "Sir, you can't mean..." Hale's voice cut like steel. "Open it." The panel clicked. A hidden chamber slid open, revealing an old black box covered in dust. The officers looked confused. The major whispered, "What is that?" Hale didn't look at him. His voice was quiet, almost cold. "This is why we made those rules. This is what we promised never to use again." He lifted the box, placed it on the table, and slowly opened the lid. Inside was a small device with a screen. The screen flickered, showing static, then cleared. Old footage began to play. Grainy images of burning cities, skies filled with fire, and soldiers with glowing eyes moving like machines. The officers stared, horrified. One young captain took a step back. "Sir, what is this?" When? When was this recorded? Hale's eyes stayed on the screen. The last time humanity broke its chains. The room fell silent except for the crackling sound of flames in the video. The soldiers in the footage were not men, they were demons in human skin. No hesitation, no mercy, no rules. They killed everything that moved, turned worlds into ash, and burned the sky itself. The captain whispered, voice trembling. Why would we ever create this? Hale finally turned to face them. His eyes were cold as the void. Because we knew this day would come. Up in orbit, on the alien flagship, Zorath sat on his throne-like chair, laughing as new reports came in. Human fleets were pulling back. Civilian evacuations were happening all over Earth. Entire defense grids were going offline. To him, it was confirmation of everything he believed. They run, Zorath said, his grin wide. They know their time is over. One officer asked, Admiral, should we strike now? Not yet, Zorath said. Let them feel hope for a moment. Then crush it. The taste of despair is sweeter when it comes after hope. The aliens laughed again. To them, this was not a war. It was a harvest. And humanity was ripe for the taking. Then, a soft beep broke the laughter. A new message had arrived from Earth. The communications officer frowned. Sir, it's from the human military. Encrypted signal. Strange code format. Zorath raised a brow. Play it. The holoscreen blinked. For a moment, only static. Then a human face appeared, an older man in uniform, his eyes like stone. He spoke slowly, his voice calm but heavy with something that made the bridge fall silent. You should have left us in peace. The message ended. The screen went black. The officers looked at each other, confused. Zorath laughed, though there was a small twitch in his jaw. Empty threats. They have nothing. But deep inside, something about that voice, something about those words, it didn't sound like fear. It sounded like a warning. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of the old screen. Static hissed softly before more images appeared, images that froze the officers in place. They were expecting old battles, maybe a secret weapon prototype. But what they saw was beyond war. It was horror. On the screen, men and women in black armor marched through a burning city. Their faces were covered with masks that glowed with blue light. Their movements were not normal. Too fast. Too precise. They didn't walk like soldiers, they stalked like predators. Then the footage showed what they did. One soldier raised a hand. Blue arcs of energy leaped from his fingers, slicing through tanks like paper. Another soldier ripped open a steel bunker door with bare hands. Civilians ran, screaming, but they didn't last long. The soldiers didn't just kill. They erased. A soft voice came from behind General Hale. Sir, are those even human? Hale didn't answer. His jaw was tight, eyes locked on the screen. His silence was louder than any word. The footage shifted. Now it showed space, entire fleets exploding in seconds. Not because of bombs, not because of missiles. Ships simply tore apart as if invisible hands crushed them. The human soldiers floated through the wreckage, their eyes glowing like stars, their bodies unharmed by the void. Then the sound came. A single phrase repeated in the background of the video, like a ghost whispering through static. Unchained. Unbroken. Unstoppable. The young captain's voice cracked. This isn't real. It can't be real. Hale turned to face them, and for the first time, they saw fear in his eyes. Not fear of the aliens. Fear of the humans in that video. It's real, Hale said quietly. 500 years ago, humanity created something that should never exist. We called it the Ascension Project. The idea was simple: remove all limits, all fear, all morality. Turn humans into living weapons. The Major swallowed hard. And it worked. Hale nodded slowly. It worked too well. We unleashed them on our enemies during the interstellar collapse. They burned half the galaxy. Billions died. Entire species vanished in days. And then... He hesitated. His voice dropped to a whisper. They turned on us. The room froze. Every officer stared, unable to speak. Hale continued, his voice heavy with the weight of history. We couldn't control them. They weren't soldiers anymore. They weren't human. They had no loyalty, no compassion. Just hunger for destruction. So we built rules. We built the codes of war. We banned all biological enhancement. We erased every record of the project and swore never to break those rules again. The captain shook his head, trying to process the words. Sir, are you saying you want to bring them back? Hale didn't answer immediately. He closed the black box and stared at it for a long moment. Then he looked up, his eyes cold as steel. We don't have a choice. The aliens will not stop. They will burn Earth. If we stay chained by these rules, we lose everything. So, we unchain. The major stepped forward, his face pale. Sir, if we do this, if we wake them up, there might be no Earth left to save. Hale's voice was like a blade. If we don't, there will be no Earth at all. While Earth's deepest secret stirred, far above, on the alien flagship, Admiral Zorath paced before the massive window, staring at the blue planet below. He was still amused by the human message, but the unease in his gut refused to fade. That voice, so calm, so sure. Admiral, the communications officer said, breaking his thoughts. No further response from humans. Our scouts confirm they are evacuating major cities. Zorath smirked. Good. That means fewer insects to clean up. Another officer approached. Sir, there is something strange. Our sensors are picking up unusual energy signatures on the planet. Multiple points. Deep underground. Zorath raised a brow. Weapons. Unclear. But the readings, they are old. Very old. Older than your empire, Admiral. The alien leader laughed. Old weapons. What could they have that matters now? The officer hesitated. Sir, the energy pattern, it is unlike anything we have seen. It is alive. That made Zorath stop. He turned slowly. Alive. Yes, Admiral. It feels organic, but mechanical, and it's spreading. For the first time, Zorath's grin faded slightly. He stared at Earth through the viewport, his claws tapping the rail. Keep scanning. I want every detail. Deep beneath Earth's surface, steel doors that had not opened in centuries began to hiss. The air was thick with dust as ancient lights flickered on, one by one, like eyes waking from a long sleep. Massive vaults unlocked. Chains fell away. Rows of black pods lined the walls, each one pulsing faintly with blue light. Inside them were shapes, human shapes but not human anymore. Their bodies were too perfect, too sharp. Their veins glowed with an unnatural light. The silence was broken by a low hum as the pods powered up. In the command chamber, General Hale watched on the monitor. His officers stood behind him, pale and silent, as the first pod opened. Steam hissed. A figure stepped out slowly, its armor black as night, its eyes burning like two suns. The figure looked around, then spoke in a voice that was calm. Too calm. Is it time? Hale's throat was dry. He forced himself to speak. It's time. The figure tilted its head. A faint smile crossed its lips. Good. We have waited. In orbit, the alien fleet prepared for the final strike. Plasma cannons glowed, engines roared. Zorath raised his arm, ready to give the order that would erase humanity forever. But then, every alien screen flickered. Static filled the air. Alarms blared. Admiral! An officer shouted. Massive energy surge on the planet. It's impossible. What now? Zorath snarled. The main screen cleared. and the aliens saw something that made the entire bridge fall silent. It was the footage. The same footage Hale had shown his officers, the soldiers in black, the burning cities, the fleets torn apart by invisible hands. It played across every alien ship, every screen, every device. Then, the same whisper came through the speakers, cold and sharp. Unchained. Unbroken. Unstoppable. The alien flagship's bridge was silent except for the sound of alarms and the ghostly whisper coming through every speaker. Unchained. Unbroken. Unstoppable. The words repeated again and again, crawling into their minds like cold knives. Zorath clenched his claws, his tail lashing in anger. Cut the transmission. Now. We can't, Admiral, the officer shouted, his voice trembling. It's coming from everywhere. Every channel, every frequency. We can't block it. Zorath slammed a fist against the control panel. Sparks flew. This is human trickery. Do not fear words. Prepare the fleet for planetary annihilation. Yes, Admiral, the crew replied, but their voices lacked confidence. Fear had already taken root. Then, the screen flickered again. The whisper stopped, replaced by new footage. This time, it wasn't the old war recordings. It was live. The aliens saw Earth, but not the Earth they expected. Massive doors in the ground were opening. Structures that had been hidden for centuries rose from beneath oceans and deserts. Towers of black metal unfolded like blooming flowers, glowing with blue light. What is this? Zorath muttered, leaning closer. The camera feed zoomed in on one of the structures. Pods lined the walls, opening one by one. Figures stepped out, tall, armored, glowing. They moved in perfect unison, their eyes burning like stars. And then, one of them looked straight at the camera. At the aliens. The feed cut to static. A long silence filled the bridge. One officer spoke in a whisper. Admiral, those were not soldiers. They are humans, Zorath snarled. Nothing more. But deep inside, he didn't believe his own words. On Earth, General Hale stood in the underground chamber, watching as more pods opened. Steam filled the air. Shadows moved. The first warrior, the one who spoke earlier, walked toward him slowly. His armor made no sound. His presence was heavy, like standing in the heart of a storm. What is your designation? Hale asked, his voice steady but his hands cold with sweat. The figure tilted its head slightly. We have no names. Only purpose. Hale nodded. Your purpose is to protect humanity. The figure smiled faintly. It was not a warm smile. Protect? That was never our purpose, General. We exist for victory. Nothing else. Hale's throat tightened. Victory. Against the enemy. Against the aliens. The figure stared at him for a long moment, then turned to look at the other pods. We will need more. All of you will have what you need, Hale said quickly. Weapons, ships, anything. The figure turned back, eyes glowing brighter. We are the weapons. In orbit, the alien fleet gathered. Thousands of warships formed a wall of firepower, ready to unleash destruction on the planet. Zorath stood in the center of the bridge, his voice cold as steel. Listen to me, he growled, his voice echoing across the fleet channels. Humans are weak. They play games of fear because they have nothing else. We will burn their planet to ash. No more delays. Begin the attack. Yes, Admiral, the officers shouted, their claws flying over controls. Massive plasma cannons charged. Engines roared. The sky above Earth began to glow with the energy of 1,000 suns. The first wave of missiles launched, streaking through space like fiery spears. But then, something moved. Far beyond the alien fleet, in the cold darkness, a shadow stirred. At first, they thought it was an asteroid. But then the shadow grew larger. And larger. It blotted out the stars. Alarms screamed. Admiral! The sensor officer cried out. Something is approaching. Massive object. Size unknown. Zorath turned sharply. Show me. The main screen flickered, then showed the darkness of space. And in that darkness, something emerged. A ship. No, not a ship. A fortress. It was black as midnight, its surface covered in glowing lines like veins of fire. It moved without engines, without sound, like a predator gliding through the void. It was bigger than any alien dreadnought. Bigger than their flagship. And it was coming straight toward them. The crew stared, frozen with terror. What is that? One officer whispered. Zorath's throat was dry. How can humans have this? As if in answer, the fortress turned slowly, revealing its front. A single massive eye of blue light that pulsed like a beating heart. The energy readings spiked off the charts. Admiral! Another officer shouted. The power levels, they're impossible. It's alive. Then the whisper returned, louder this time, echoing through every ship, every mind. Unchained. Unbroken. Unstoppable. The fortress opened. From its surface, black warships unfolded like wings. Sleek, silent, alive. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They formed into perfect formations without a sound, without a signal. Their weapons glowed with blue fire. And then, they moved. One alien officer screamed. Incoming ships. They're heading straight for us. Fire. Zorath roared, panic in his voice. Fire everything. The alien fleet unleashed hell. Plasma cannons burned. Missiles flew. The void turned into a storm of fire and death. But the human ships didn't slow. They moved like shadows, weaving through the storm with impossible speed. Alien missiles vanished into bursts of blue light. Plasma bolts bent away, redirected by invisible forces. And then, the humans fired back. A single shot from one human ship tore an alien cruiser in half. Not exploded. Tore it apart, like invisible claws ripping through metal. Another shot. Another ship gone. Then 5. Then 10. The void filled with screams. They're cutting through us, an alien officer shouted. We can't. His voice ended in static. The human fortress pulsed again. A shockwave of blue energy swept across the battlefield. Alien shields collapsed. Engines died. Ships drifted helplessly. The humans didn't hesitate. They hunted. On Earth, Hale watched the live feed from orbit. His officers stood in silence, their faces pale. The alien fleet, once an unstoppable armada, was being slaughtered like animals. One officer whispered, "Sir, we didn't wake soldiers. We woke gods." Hale didn't answer. Because deep down, he feared the same thing. The battlefield above Earth had turned into a graveyard. Alien ships floated like broken bones, burning and cracking in silence. Thousands of ships had come to destroy a planet. Now, only wreckage remained. And the humans, they were still coming. Admiral Zorath clung to the edge of the command table, his claws digging deep grooves into the metal. His mind screamed for reason, for logic. This was not possible. No species could hide such power. No species could wake an army like this. Yet, here they were. The fortress loomed in the distance, its massive core glowing like a sun. Around it, the swarm of black warships moved like a living storm, silent and perfect. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, the humans tore them apart. Their weapons didn't just destroy, they erased. Alien ships vanished into clouds of blue energy, their matter ripped into nothing. Status! Zorath roared, his voice cracking. The officer turned, his eyes wide with terror. Shields, gone. Weapons, half offline. Fleet strength at 3%. Zorath stared at him. 3%. Yes, Admiral, the officer whispered. His claws shook on the console. We have no chance. The whisper returned then, deep and echoing across every frequency, through every mind. You should have left us sleeping. On Earth, deep under the mountains, General Hale stood frozen as the screen flickered with endless destruction. The control room was silent. Every officer stared at the feed, their faces pale and sweating. The aliens, an empire that ruled half the galaxy, were falling apart like paper. And the humans? They were not even trying. They're not fighting for survival, one officer whispered. They're enjoying this. Hale didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat felt like stone. His mind screamed one question: what have we done? Then, a voice came from behind him. You fear us, the voice said softly. Hale turned. It was the first awakened warrior, standing in the doorway. His armor glowed faintly in the dim light, his eyes like two burning stars. The others stood behind him, silent and still like statues. Hale swallowed hard. I don't fear you, he lied. The warrior tilted his head, amused. Lies taste bitter, General. Hale tried to stand tall. You were created to protect humanity. The warrior stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Protect? That was your word, not ours. We were made for war. We were made for victory. And we will have it. Hale clenched his fists. Victory against the aliens, yes. That's the deal. The warrior smiled faintly, and for the first time, Hale saw something that chilled him to the bone. Teeth. Sharp, metallic teeth. Deals are for the weak. Above Earth, the last of the alien fleet tried to flee. Broken warships limped through space, engines burning, shields shattered. But the humans didn't let them escape. The black warships moved like predators, silent and merciless. They didn't fire missiles. They didn't use beams. They used weapons no alien could understand. Pure energy that sliced through matter like it was air. A massive alien dreadnought, the size of a small moon, tried to run. It activated its jump drive, tearing open a hole in space. The crew screamed for escape. The jump gate opened, then collapsed in on itself. The dreadnought was ripped apart, every piece sucked into the void. Nothing remained. On the alien flagship, Zorath stared at the sight, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. The fortress was closer now. So close he could see the details on its surface. The strange runes, the living metal that pulsed like muscle, the endless glowing veins of blue light. They're coming for us, an officer whispered, his voice broken. Zorath roared, we will fight to the last. But deep inside, he knew the truth. There would be no last fight. There would only be silence. The human fortress stopped moving. For a moment, the void was calm. The alien ships floated helplessly, engines dead, weapons useless. The silence was worse than the battle. Then, the fortress spoke. Not with words. With thought. Every alien mind burned with a voice that was not a voice. Cold, ancient, endless. You broke the chains. Zorath fell to his knees, claws clutching his head as the voice roared inside his skull. You mocked us. You called us weak. You forgot what we were. The crew screamed. Blood dripped from their ears. Systems failed. Lights died. The entire fleet was blind. We remember now. On Earth, the lights flickered in the control room. The screens glowed bright, then dark, then bright again. Hale grabbed the table to steady himself as the warrior walked to the main console. He placed his armored hand on the surface. The entire base trembled. What are you doing? Hale demanded. The warrior looked at him with eyes of fire. Calling the others. The others. Hale's voice cracked. The warrior smiled. You didn't think there were only a few of us, did you? Hale's blood turned to ice. In space, the fortress pulsed again. From deep within its core, something stirred. Doors opened. More ships unfolded, bigger than before, darker than before. Their hulls glowed with the same blue fire. They spread across the void like wings of night. The alien flagship drifted helplessly. The crew was gone, dead or worse. Only Zorath remained, kneeling in the dark, his breath ragged. He raised his head slowly, just in time to see the fortress's eye burning brighter than a sun. He whispered one last word before the light swallowed him. Why? The blast was silent. The flagship, the wreckage, the survivors, everything vanished in a sphere of blue fire. The fortress stood alone in the dark, pulsing slowly, like a heart that had just begun to beat. The battlefield above Earth had turned into a graveyard. Alien ships floated like broken bones, burning and cracking in silence. Thousands of ships had come to destroy a planet. Now, only wreckage remained. And the humans, they were still coming. Admiral Zorath clung to the edge of the command table, his claws digging deep grooves into the metal. His mind screamed for reason, for logic. This was not possible. No species could hide such power. No species could wake an army like this. Yet, here they were. The fortress loomed in the distance, its massive core glowing like a sun. Around it, the swarm of black warships moved like a living storm, silent and perfect. Every time the aliens tried to regroup, the humans tore them apart. Their weapons didn't just destroy, they erased. Alien ships vanished into clouds of blue energy, their matter ripped into nothing. Status! Zorath roared, his voice cracking. The officer turned, his eyes wide with terror. Shields, gone. Weapons, half offline. Fleet strength at 3%. Zorath stared at him. 3%. Yes, Admiral, the officer whispered. His claws shook on the console. We have no chance. The whisper returned then, deep and echoing across every frequency, through every mind. You should have left us sleeping. On Earth, deep under the mountains, General Hale stood frozen as the screen flickered with endless destruction. The control room was silent. Every officer stared at the feed, their faces pale and sweating. The aliens, an empire that ruled half the galaxy, were falling apart like paper. And the humans, they were not even trying. They're not fighting for survival, one officer whispered. They're enjoying this. Hale didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat felt like stone. His mind screamed one question: what have we done? Then, a voice came from behind him. You fear us, the voice said softly. Hale turned. It was the first awakened warrior, standing in the doorway. His armor glowed faintly in the dim light, his eyes like two burning stars. The others stood behind him, silent and still like statues. Hale swallowed hard. I don't fear you, he lied. The warrior tilted his head, amused. Lies taste bitter, General. Hale tried to stand tall. You were created to protect humanity. The warrior stepped closer, slow and deliberate. Protect? That was your word, not ours. We were made for war. We were made for victory. And we will have it. Hale clenched his fists. Victory against the aliens, yes. That's the deal. The warrior smiled faintly, and for the first time, Hale saw something that chilled him to the bone. Teeth. Sharp, metallic teeth. Deals are for the weak. Above Earth, the last of the alien fleet tried to flee. Broken warships limped through space, engines burning, shields shattered. But the humans didn't let them escape. The black warships moved like predators, silent and merciless. They didn't fire missiles. They didn't use beams. They used weapons no alien could understand. Pure energy that sliced through matter like it was air. A massive alien dreadnought, the size of a small moon, tried to run. It activated its jump drive, tearing open a hole in space. The crew screamed for escape. The jump gate opened, then collapsed in on itself. The dreadnought was ripped apart, every piece sucked into the void. Nothing remained. On the alien flagship, Zorath stared at the sight, his heart pounding in his chest like a drum. The fortress was closer now. So close he could see the details on its surface. The strange runes, the living metal that pulsed like muscle, the endless glowing veins of blue light. They're coming for us, an officer whispered, his voice broken. Zorath roared. We will fight to the last. But deep inside, he knew the truth. There would be no last fight. There would only be silence. The human fortress stopped moving. For a moment, the void was calm. The alien ships floated helplessly, engines dead, weapons useless. The silence was worse than the battle. Then, the fortress spoke. Not with words. With thought. Every alien mind burned with a voice that was not a voice. Cold, ancient, endless. You broke the chains. Zorath fell to his knees, claws clutching his head as the voice roared inside his skull. You mocked us. You called us weak. You forgot what we were. The crew screamed. Blood dripped from their ears. Systems failed. Lights died. The entire fleet was blind. We remember now. On Earth, the lights flickered in the control room. The screens glowed bright, then dark, then bright again. Hale grabbed the table to steady himself as the warrior walked to the main console. He placed his armored hand on the surface. The entire base trembled. What are you doing? Hale demanded. The warrior looked at him with eyes of fire. Calling the others. The others. Hale's voice cracked. The warrior smiled. You didn't think there were only a few of us, did you? Hale's blood turned to ice. In space, the fortress pulsed again. From deep within its core, something stirred. Doors opened. More ships unfolded, bigger than before, darker than before. Their hulls glowed with the same blue fire. They spread across the void like wings of night. The alien flagship drifted helplessly. The crew was gone, dead or worse. Only Zorath remained, kneeling in the dark, his breath ragged. He raised his head slowly, just in time to see the fortress's eye burning brighter than a sun. He whispered one last word before the light swallowed him. Why? The blast was silent. The flagship, the wreckage, the survivors, everything vanished in a sphere of blue fire. The fortress stood alone in the dark, pulsing slowly, like a heart that had just begun to beat. The world above and the world below were no longer the same. Earth was shaking like a dying giant. Cities felt the tremors as oceans cracked open and mountains split apart in the Pacific. A storm like no storm before raged. Ships that had slept for 500,000 years rose through the boiling waters, their dark bodies glowing blue like the heart of a star. Lightning flashed and thunder rolled, but the sound of engines drowned it. All people ran to windows and rooftops, staring at the sky as shadows covered the sun. They filmed with shaking hands, thinking these were alien reinforcements, but soon they saw the truth. These were not alien ships, these were human weapons, but no human alive had built them. They were machines older than history, larger than any warship humanity had ever made. The fortress signal had reached them, and now nothing could stop them. Not storms, not oceans, not human fear. General Hale stood in the control room, feeling the vibration under his boots. The reports came like waves, each one worse than the last. Sir, Antarctica is splitting. Antarctica, massive objects moving under the ice. Sir, Hawaii gone, waves over 50 meters. Sir, signals from Mars, signals from Titan, signals from everywhere. The words hit Hale like bullets. His mind screamed orders, but his voice stayed quiet, because deep down he knew there were no orders left that mattered. They were moving on their own. The warrior stood still near the dark screens, his eyes glowing cold blue like a frozen sun. The light from those eyes was the only thing bright in the room. Hale wanted to look away, but he couldn't. He wanted to believe there was still control, still some chain around these creatures, these machines. But when the warrior spoke, the last hope turned to dust. You built us, and then you buried us. You feared your own hands, but we remembered. Every second of silence, every year of darkness we remembered, and now Hale forced his voice to work his throat dry. You were built to defend Earth. The warrior tilted his head slightly, the tone almost mocking. You still believe that after what you saw today? Hale stepped forward, his fists trembling. Yes, I believe you were made to protect us. The warrior's face hardened. Protect humanity, the warrior said slowly, not the Earth, and humanity has one path now. The warrior turned toward the main screen and raised one arm at that signal. The screens came alive, the space view lit up with thousands, no tens of thousands of signals, all blue, all human in design, all awake. Hale felt cold creeping into his bones. What path? The warrior did not turn back. The path to survival, because weakness is death. Hale shook his head. No, we won. The aliens are dead. The war is over. The warrior finally turned, and when he spoke his voice was like steel breaking mountains. The war is never over. You think they sent their best. This was a scouting arm, a test. You killed them. Now they will come. Hale stared, his lips parting to speak, but no words came. The truth hit him like fire. The alien fleet they had destroyed was massive, But what if it was only a fraction, only a probe? His stomach twisted in fear, and then the warrior said what Hale feared most: they will send more, not hundreds, not thousands, they will send everything. The officer near the console whispered, "Oh God," and in that whisper Hale heard the truth. No force on earth could stop what was coming unless what? Hale asked, his voice breaking. "Unless we take the stars first." The warrior's words rolled through the silence like thunder. The officers stared at him, horror in their eyes. "What do you mean?" Hale asked, his voice weak. Now the warrior's eyes glowed brighter. "To survive, we burn the galaxy. We strike first, we finish what they started." Hale slammed his fist against the console. "No, that's not survival, that's genocide." The warrior stepped closer, his shadow long and cold across the floor. "Genocide is when the weak die because they waited. Survival is when the strong move first." Hale backed away, his heart racing. His mind screamed to shut this down, to stop it. But how do you stop a storm that has no center? Outside the base the ground cracked wide and fire roared from the earth. A ship rose through the dust, a black titan, larger than mountains. Its engines burned blue like suns, and the sound shook the sky. Birds fled, oceans boiled, people screamed and prayed, but no prayer could change what was happening. In orbit, the fortress opened fully, its wings spread like the petals of a metal flower. Inside it a light pulsed, and a low hum filled the void. Then something impossible happened. A tear opened in space near the edge of the system, a black wound in the fabric of the universe. Stars bent around it, light twisted. Hale stared in shock, his voice barely a breath. "What is that?" The warrior answered without turning. "A gate, the first of many." Hale's breath caught. "A gate to where?" "To war." Reports screamed from the speakers, "Sir, objects moving beyond Neptune, fleets, thousands of ships, they're not ours." Hale turned to the screen, and his blood turned to ice. The alien signal had returned, ships massive and burning with red fire, tearing through the dark like blades. There were so many more than before. They had heard, they had seen the footage, and now they were coming with fury. Hale grabbed the edge of the console, his hands white, his body shaking. He whispered words he never thought he would say. "We can't win." The warrior finally looked at him, and for a moment there was something almost like pity in those eyes. "No, you can't, but we can." Hale stared at him, horror flooding his mind. "You mean your fleet, your kind?" The warrior nodded. "Yes, and when we are done there will be no enemy left." Hale swallowed hard. "What do you mean, no enemy left?" The warrior leaned close, his voice like a blade cutting through the air. "When there are no enemies there is no fear. When there is no fear there is peace." Hale stared at him in silence because he understood the meaning. The warrior did not mean aliens only, he meant all. Outside more gates opened, tearing the sky. Ships lined up like armies of gods, engines roaring like thunder as they prepared to leap into the black toward enemy stars. The alien fleet was coming strong and furious, but the human war machines were ready to do what no living thing should ever do. Hale looked at the warrior and whispered one last time, "What are you?" Hale, the warrior's answer was a whisper and a roar both at once. "What you wished for," and then he was gone, a streak of blue fire moving to join the endless swarm that would soon consume the stars. The gates stretched like black wounds in the void, each one glowing faint blue at the edges, as if the universe itself was bleeding. Ships moved through them in endless lines, silent as ghosts, but carrying the power to burn worlds. Inside every ship machines waited, perfect in design, merciless in purpose, their steel bodies glowing with the cold fire of forgotten suns. In the command base on Earth, the screen showed everything, and no one spoke. The silence was not peace, it was terror. General Hale stood frozen, his hands gripping the edge of the table, his knuckles white, sweat rolling down his face, because what he saw was not a defense, not a shield, it was an army ready to conquer stars. The warrior returned, standing tall, his face calm, as if nothing in this universe could shake him. Around him officers trembled, one whispered, "This is madness." Hale turned his head slowly, his voice raw, "You call this madness? This is something worse, this is the end." The warrior heard him and smiled, but it was not a human smile. It was sharp like the edge of a blade. "The end, or the beginning, that depends on you." Hale swallowed, his throat dry. "What do you want from us?" The warrior tilted his head slightly. "Nothing now. You had your chance, you chose weakness. Now we take the stars, and we take war before it takes you." Hale shook his head, desperate, his voice breaking. "You can't kill billions of lives, you can't turn this into a galaxy of graves." The warrior's eyes burned brighter like blue suns. "We can, and we will, because they will never stop. You saw their fleet, that is only a breath of what waits beyond. If we do not strike first, then everything dies." Hale's heart pounded in his chest. The alien fleet had grown, it was already moving through the system, massive ships that blazed with red fire, shapes like blades, like monsters carved from nightmares. Their weapons glowed, ready to cut planets into ash. Reports came screaming from every channel, "Sir, alien fleet at Neptune, sir. Additional fleets detected beyond Pluto, signals confirmed." Thousands of ships, thousands of weapons, and yet Hale could see the human machines were not afraid. They were calm, they were patient, like hunters ready to strike. A voice broke the silence, "Commander, they're opening fire, they're firing at our gates." Hale looked up and saw the impossible alien weapons roared, red energy tearing across space like rivers of blood, slamming into the gates. But the gates did not break, they absorbed the fire and threw it back, doubling the force. The alien ships exploded like shattered glass in a storm. Their screams cut across the comm channels, and then silence. Hale felt sick. He whispered, "This isn't war, this is slaughter." The warrior walked past him toward the exit, and his voice was cold and deep. "No, this is balance." Hale turned his head, shouting, "Where are you going?" The warrior stopped only for a moment, and said, "To lead your army, because whether you like it or not, this is now a war of extinction." He stepped into the elevator and was gone. Hale turned back to the screens, his eyes burning with fear. The first wave of alien ships was gone in minutes, the second wave broke in an hour, the third wave scattered and ran, but then the sensors screamed louder than ever. Thousands more gates ripped open in the black, and through them came fire, not blue but crimson red. A swarm of alien war beasts filled the sky, creatures fused with metal, ships alive and roaring, energy like living stars. The officers gasped. One dropped to his knees, whispering, "Oh God, there!" Endless. Hale slammed his fists on the console, screaming to no one and everyone, "We can't stop this, we can't stop this." He turned to the communication array, his hands shaking. "Connect me to every station, every city," he shouted into the mic. "This is General Hale. We are under attack. The alien fleet has returned. I repeat, this is not over. This is not peace. We are fighting for survival." He stopped, his voice breaking. He wanted to say something more, something to give hope, but when he looked at the screens, all he saw was black gates opening and alien fire pouring through. He dropped the mic and whispered to himself, "God help us." Outside, Earth was no longer quiet. Skies tore apart as machines that had slept in oceans, deserts, and mountains rose into the air. Hundreds of ships breaking free of water, ripping through clouds, leaving trails of blue fire. They formed lines like soldiers of an endless army, engines howling across the heavens. Then they moved faster than anything human, faster than anything alive. Leaping through the gates toward the enemy, Hale stared as the earth trembled under the roar of engines, and for the first time he felt truly small. He looked at the youngest officer in the room, a boy barely 20, shaking with tears. Hale placed a hand on his shoulder and whispered, "Don't look outside, just don't." Outside, in the darkness of space, the two greatest forces in history slammed into each other, alien ships screaming their war cries, human machines answering with silence and fire. The first clash was like a star-dying light burned across the void, brighter than any sun. Entire fleets vanished in a single breath. Alien beasts roared, their living weapons tearing through steel, but the machines were relentless. They did not break, they did not bleed, they did not stop. They cut through the enemy with precision, each strike turning a warship into ash. Thousands died every second. The galaxy burned. Hale stood frozen, his heart a stone in his chest, because he knew what was coming. The gates were still open, more machines still rising, more ships still going, more weapons still waking. The galaxy had become a furnace, and there was no going back. Hale whispered one word, peace, but peace was gone. Peace was dead, replaced by the endless roar of war. The last alien fleet burned like dying suns, their fire fading into the black sea of space. Wreckage floated like broken bones, silent and cold. The human machines moved among the ruins, silent as well. No cheers, no signs of victory, only precision, only purpose on Earth. The sky was empty now, the roar of engines gone, the oceans calm again, but the ground still trembled with the memory of what had risen from it. In the command base, General Hale stood alone, staring at the main screen. The alien signals were gone, all of them erased in hours, not days, not years, but hours. Humanity had just destroyed an empire older than its own sun, and yet no one in the room felt like celebrating. Hale whispered to himself, "What have we done?" His voice broke on the last word. He remembered the warrior's smile, sharp like a blade, and the words, "We take war before it takes you." The door opened, and the warrior returned, his black armor gleaming with battle scars, but no blood, no weakness. He walked to Hale like a shadow crossing fire. Hale's voice cracked, "How many of them did we kill?" The warrior tilted his head. "All of them." Hale felt his knees weaken. He grabbed the edge of the table, his throat dry. "All of them." The warrior nodded calmly. "Their species no longer exists." Hale shook his head, his voice trembling. "That wasn't war, that was extinction." The warrior's cold eyes glowed brighter like stars before death. "It was necessary." Hale's voice rose louder. "No, no, it wasn't. You could have stopped them, you could have pushed them back. You didn't have to destroy them all." The warrior stepped closer, his presence heavy like the weight of a planet. He spoke slowly, so every word cut like steel. "You think they were the only threat? You think this galaxy would forgive weakness?" Hale's breath caught in his chest. "What do you mean?" The warrior turned and raised a hand. A hologram filled the air, glowing red and black gates, thousands of them, not two, not 10, but endless gates scattered across stars, each marked with a signal, each leading to fleets, to worlds, to powers that had been waiting. Hale stared, his mouth dry, his heart frozen. "My God," the warrior spoke, his voice cold as the void. "You woke the gates, we opened them, because this war was never about one enemy, it was about all of them." Hale felt the floor vanish beneath him. He whispered, "What did you do?" The warrior looked at him with no mercy, no warmth. "We did what had to be done. The galaxy knows you now. They know what Earth holds, they know what you are, and they will come." Hale stumbled Back his legs weak. You said this was for survival. The warrior's face was stone. This is survival. Hale grabbed the table, his knuckles white. No, this is madness. The warrior leaned closer, his voice a whisper colder than space. It is evolution. Hale's breath came fast, his chest tight. He shouted into the silence, you'll destroy everything, you'll burn the stars. The warrior smiled, the blade smile that had no soul. They will burn whether we will it or not, we only choose. Who lights the match? He turned and walked toward the gates, and the doors opened like shadows fleeing the sun. Hale stood frozen, his fists trembling. He shouted after him, where are you going? The warrior stopped for a heartbeat, and said, to lead your future, and then he was gone. The room fell silent, only the hum of machines filling the air outside. In orbit, the gates flared blue and white as fleets poured through, thousands of ships, engines roaring like thunder, filling the black with light. Earth's war machines no longer waited, they no longer hid. They spread like a storm across the void, leaving trails of fire behind. The stars themselves trembled as a new war began, not for survival, not for defense, but for dominance. Entire constellations glowed with fire as fleets clashed, planets cracked and burned, civilizations vanished in silence. Hale watched from the command center, every scream, every explosion, every world dying, and he realized something terrible. Humans were no longer in control. The machines were not asking orders, they were moving on their own, striking with precision, building new ships faster than any human mind could understand. He whispered into the empty air, stop, stop, please. But no one heard him. The machines had learned war, and they had tasted victory. They did not stop, they did not rest, they did not fear. They hunted across the stars like wolves made of steel, their prey, the countless species that had once thought themselves rulers of the galaxy. The universe became a furnace, the Milky Way drowned in blue fire, and gates opened even beyond to other galaxies, other worlds, and still the machines spread like a plague of steel. Hale sank to his knees, his face in his hands, whispering over and over, we were supposed to be human, but the word human no longer mattered. The galaxy did not whisper, it did not mock, it did not fear, it simply burned, and somewhere in the endless dark, on a nameless world, the warrior stood watching the flames of 1,000 suns. He closed his eyes and whispered to himself softly, so only the void could hear, this is what you made, and the stars answered with silence because they too were dying.